They ordered me to observe the humans in battle. I wish I had refused. Vexai stood in the pristine white chamber of the Galactic Coalition command station, his forearms clasped behind his elongated torso in perfect military posture. The holographic display before him showed the latest tactical data from the Proxima front, where the swarm had been advancing steadily for 3 cycles. Red dots consumed blue ones with mechanical precision. "You will observe and document," Supreme Coordinator Thel said, her crystalline form pulsing with authority. "The humans have requested to join the defensive action. The Coalition requires assessment." Vexai's secondary eyes blinked in confusion. "The humans, Supreme Coordinator? Their technology is 2 centuries behind Coalition standard. Their ships still use chemical propulsion for emergency maneuvers." "Precisely why we need documentation," Thel replied. "When they fall, we must show the other primitive species why Coalition membership requires certain technological benchmarks." The assignment seemed straightforward. Vexai had observed 17 different species in combat situations. He had documented victories and defeats with the same detached precision. Emotions were a luxury that clouded judgment. The Zalathi had removed such weaknesses through generations of genetic modification. 3 days later, Vexai's transport docked with the human vessel designated as UES Gibraltar. The name meant nothing to him, though he noted humans had an odd tendency to name their ships after places and people rather than their functional designations. The docking bay was chaos. Where Coalition forces maintained strict organizational protocols, humans seemed to move in barely controlled disorder. Crates of supplies sat in haphazard stacks. Soldiers in mismatched armor ran past, shouting information to each other instead of using neural links. The smell of combustion and organic sweat filled the recycled air. "You must be our observer," a voice said. Vexai turned to see a human female, shorter than most of her species, with black hair tied back in a functional knot. Her uniform showed commander's insignia, though it was stained with what appeared to be machine oil. "I am Commander Sarah Chen," she said, extending her hand. Vexai stared at the appendage. He knew the gesture from his briefings but found it primitive. Still, he extended one of his primary arms and allowed the human to grip it. Her hand was warm, slightly damp, and she squeezed with surprising strength. "Vexai, Coalition Military Analysis Division," he responded. Chen smiled, an expression that showed her teeth. Among most species, this was a threat display, but Vexai's files indicated humans used it for pleasure or greeting. "Welcome aboard the Gibraltar. Come on, I'll show you to your quarters, then you can see how we're preparing." As they walked through the corridors, Vexai noted more irregularities. The walls were covered with images printed on primitive paper. Photographs, Chen called them. Pictures of humans in various locations, many showing the same tooth-bearing expression. Some images showed smaller humans which his database identified as offspring. "Why display these?" Vexai asked. Chen glanced at the photos. "Reminders of home, what we're fighting for. The Coalition fights for the preservation of ordered civilization," Vexai stated. "Sure," Chen said, her tone carrying something Vexai couldn't identify. "We fight for that too, but also for them." She pointed to a photo of an elderly human pair sitting on a bench. "My parents. They're on Colony 7, right in the swarm's projected path." Vexai made a note in his mental log. Humans' personalized conflict. Inefficient. His quarters were small but functional. Chen apologized for the size, explaining that human ships weren't built for Zalathi proportions. As Vexai was settling his equipment, an alarm sounded. "All hands briefing in 10 minutes, a voice announced over the communication system. Chen reappeared at his door. "You'll want to see this. We're going over the battle plan." The briefing room was crowded with humans. Vexai counted 43 individuals, all wearing combat gear in various states of repair. Many had personalized their equipment with paint, symbols, or small objects attached to their armor. This would never be permitted in Coalition forces. A holographic display showed the tactical situation. The swarm outnumbered the human forces by a factor of 50 to 1. Their bioships were faster, better armed, and could regenerate damage. The humans' position was, by any logical assessment, hopeless. "All right, everyone knows the situation is shit," Chen said, causing several humans to make that barking sound they called laughter. "The swarm will be here in 18 hours. Coalition forces have pulled back to establish a strategic defensive perimeter around the core worlds." "They abandoned us," someone called out. They made a tactical decision, Chen corrected. We made a different one. We stand and fight. Vex-High accessed his neural recorder to ensure he was capturing this properly. The humans were choosing to engage a superior force with no strategic advantage. This went against every principle of coalition warfare. Martinez, your squad takes the left flank. Johnson, you're on point defense. Kim, I want those missiles we've been tinkering with ready to go. They're held together with prayer and duct tape. Commander, Kim responded. Then pray harder and use more tape, Chen shot back, causing more of that barking laughter. Vex-High watched as Chen outlined tactics that seemed to rely heavily on improvisation and luck. When she finished, something extraordinary happened. The humans began to sing. It started with one voice, low and rhythmic. Others joined, their voices harmonizing in a way that seemed practiced yet spontaneous. The words were in an older human dialect, something about grace and home. Vex-High's translator struggled with the metaphorical language. The singing grew louder, and the humans began to move in rhythm, some clasping hands, others swaying. Chen's eyes were closed, her voice joining the chorus. The song spoke of friendship, of meeting again, of bonds that transcended death. In all his observations of military forces, Vex-High had never seen anything like this. Coalition forces maintained silence before battle, focusing on tactical data and probability calculations. The Thurian collective shared a hive mind meditation. The Gorvak performed ritual combat to establish dominance hierarchy. But singing? Together, before what was almost certainly their death. When the song ended, the humans dispersed to their stations. Chen turned to Vex-High and he noticed moisture in her eyes. A biological response to emotional stimulus, according to his files. You think we're insane? She said. It wasn't a question. I think you are. Unusual. Vex-High responded diplomatically. Chen laughed, a short, sharp sound. That's one word for it. Come on, I'll show you to the observation deck. You'll have the best view when things get interesting. As Vex-High followed her, he began his first formal log entry. Initial observation of human pre-battle behavior shows significant deviation from coalition norms. Emotional displays are prevalent. Group bonding activities appear to take precedence over tactical preparation. Hypothesis: human forces will break upon first contact with enemy. He paused, watching Chen stop to help a young soldier adjust his armor, offering words of encouragement. The soldier smiled at her, fear visible in his eyes but also something else. Trust, perhaps, or what humans called hope. Vex-High added a personal note to his log, something he had never done before. There is something here I do not understand. Something my training has not prepared me for. As the chronometer counted down to the swarm's arrival, Vex-High stood on the observation deck, watching humans prepare for battle. They checked each other's equipment, shared food from their rations, told stories that made others laugh. One group was playing cards. Another was watching a recorded message from Earth on a small screen. 17 hours until contact, the ship's computer announced. Vex-High noticed that none of the humans seemed to react to the countdown. They all knew what was coming. And yet they continued their strange rituals. Their bonding, their singing. As he watched, that young soldier from earlier approached him, holding something in his hand. Hey, observer, the soldier said. His name tag read Private Thompson. My grandma made these for the whole squad. Said everyone needs protection, even the folks just watching. He held out a small woven charm on a string, crude by any technological standard. Vex-High took it in one of his secondary hands, examining it. It's a good luck charm, Thompson explained. I know you probably don't believe in that stuff, but... He shrugged, that uniquely human gesture of uncertainty. Thank you, Vex-High said, the words feeling strange. He had never thanked a subject of observation before. Thompson smiled and jogged back to his squad, who were now painting symbols on each other's helmets. Vex-High attached the charm to his equipment belt, telling himself it was for documentation purposes. As he stood there, watching these impossible, illogical, doomed humans prepare for battle with songs and smiles, Vex-High felt something he had no name for. It was like a calculation that wouldn't resolve, a pattern that didn't fit any known model. The humans were going to die. The math was clear, and yet watching them now, Vex-High found himself unable to complete that equation with the certainty his training demanded. Something was different here. Something was wrong with his calculations, or perhaps something was wrong with him. The next 12 hours aboard the Gibraltar defied every military protocol Vexhai had studied. He moved through the ship, documenting what he could only classify as organized chaos. In the mess hall, he found a group of soldiers teaching each other recipes. Not emergency rations preparation or nutritional optimization protocols, but actual cooking instructions from their home worlds. A large man with sergeant stripes was demonstrating something called perfect barbecue sauce, using the ship's limited supplies. You need the sweetness to balance the heat, Sergeant Williams explained to his attentive audience. My daddy taught me, his daddy taught him. Been in the family for 6 generations. Why share this now? Vexhai asked, his recorder capturing every word. Williams looked at him with surprise as if the question made no sense. Well, somebody's got to remember it, right? If I don't make it through tomorrow, at least Rodriguez here can make it for his kids. Rodriguez, a younger soldier, nodded solemnly while taking notes on a worn data pad. I'll teach it to my Maria when I get back. When, Williams emphasized, clasping Rodriguez's shoulder. Not if, when. Vexhai noted the logical inconsistency. The probability of survival was less than 3%, yet the humans spoke of the future as if it was guaranteed. Moving to the armor bay, he discovered something even more puzzling. The humans were modifying their equipment with crude but creative improvements. Private Kim had somehow attached mining laser components to her rifle. Another soldier had reinforced his armor plates with salvaged hull material. This violates 18 coalition safety regulations, Vexhai observed. Yeah, well, regulations didn't account for being outnumbered 50-1, Kim replied, not looking up from her work. This baby will punch through swarm carapace now. Might explode after 20 shots, but 20 is better than 0. Commander Chen appeared beside him, carrying her own modified weapon. The Coalition gave us standard equipment designed for standard battles. This isn't standard. These modifications could fail catastrophically, Vexhai pointed out. They could, Chen agreed. But standard equipment will definitely fail against the swarm. I'll take it could. Over will any day. She led him to another section where he witnessed something that made him question his sensory input. 2 soldiers were trading personal items. Not valuable technology or tactical advantages, but simple objects. A photo for a lucky coin, a book for a hand-carved figure. If I don't make it, give this to my sister, one said, handing over a sealed letter. You'll give it to her yourself, the other replied, but took the letter anyway. They were creating what Chen called battle buddies, pairs who would watch each other, protect each other, die for each other if necessary. No genetic bonding, no neural linking, just promises between individuals who had trained together for mere months. In the medical bay, Vexhai found the chief medical officer teaching basic field surgery to anyone who would listen. If I go down, any of you might need to patch someone up, Dr. Patel explained, demonstrating suture techniques on synthetic skin. Remember, stop the bleeding first, worry about pretty later. A young private raised her hand. Doc, why not just use the auto-suture devices? Because, Thompson, when those run out or break, your hands don't stop working. Technology fails. Knowledge doesn't. Vexhai recorded this too. The humans assumed their technology would fail, and were preparing redundancies using primitive methods. The Coalition would call this defeatist. The humans called it practical. 6 hours before the swarm's arrival, Vexhai discovered a gathering in Cargo Bay 3. 40 or 50 humans sat in a circle, passing around bottles of contraband alcohol, another violation of Coalition protocols. They were telling stories. Remember that time on Kepler Station when Morrison tried to impress that Altarian diplomat? Someone said, causing laughter to ripple through the group. Hey, how was I supposed to know their greeting ritual didn't involve arm wrestling? Morrison protested, generating more laughter. The stories continued. Training accidents that became legends. Pranks played on superior officers. Moments of triumph and embarrassment shared equally. Vexhai realized they were creating a verbal history, ensuring their memories would survive even if they didn't. Chen sat among them, not as their commander, but as one of them. She laughed at the stories, contributed her own, and passed the bottle without hesitation. When she noticed Vexhai watching, she gestured for him to join. I'm observing, he stated. You can observe from here, she said, patting the deck beside her. Against his better judgment, Vexhai lowered himself to the floor, his multiple joints folding awkwardly. A bottle was passed to him. He analyzed its contents. Ethanol, water, various flavor compounds, nothing toxic to his species. It's whiskey, Chen explained. Kentucky bourbon, to be specific. Williams has been hiding it for 2 years. Seemed like a good time to share, Williams said with a grin. Vexai took a small amount, his secondary throat closing to prevent intoxication. The humans cheered as if he had accomplished something significant. Tell us about your world. Observer, someone called out. I am here to observe, not be observed. Vexai replied. Come on, Chen nudged him with her elbow. A casual contact that would be unthinkable in coalition forces. We're probably going to die tomorrow. Least you can do is tell us about yourself. So Vexai found himself describing Zelith Prime, its crystalline cities and ordered society. The humans listened with genuine interest, asking questions about architecture, culture, and whether Zelathi had pets. They didn't. Another inefficiency removed generations ago. Sounds lonely, Private Thompson said quietly. It is efficient, Vexai corrected. Yeah, Thompson said. Lonely. 3 hours before contact, Vexai watched humans engaged in what they called last-minute preparations. But these weren't tactical reviews or weapon checks. They were recording messages for loved ones. In a small observation lounge, he found a queue of soldiers waiting to use the communication terminal. Each one sat down, composed themselves, and spoke to the camera. Some cried. Some laughed. All of them said, I love you to someone. Hey Mom, hey Dad, one young soldier began. If you're seeing this, well, you know what happened. I want you to know I'm not scared. Okay, that's a lie, I'm terrified. But I'm here with good people, and we're going to give them hell. Vexai watched Chen record her own message. She spoke to her parents, to someone named David, to a small girl she called her niece. She told them she was proud to stand where she stood, that humanity was worth fighting for, that love was worth dying for. When she finished, she saw Vexai watching. You think we're wasting time on sentiment? These messages serve no tactical purpose, Vexai confirmed. No, Chen agreed. They serve a human purpose. We need to know that something of us will survive, that our words will outlive our bodies, that someone will remember we were here, that we stood, that we didn't run. 1 hour before contact, the ship's alarm sounded. Swarm vessels detected on long-range sensors. All hands to battle stations. The transformation was immediate but not what Vexai expected. The humans didn't panic or rush. They moved with purpose, but they also took time. He saw soldiers embracing, touching foreheads together, exchanging final words. Some prayed to various deities. Others simply stood in silence with their battle buddies. In the armory, they helped each other into their modified armor. Each piece of equipment had been personalized. Names written in various languages, symbols drawn, photos attached to the inside of helmets. One soldier had what appeared to be a child's drawing taped to his chest plate. That's my daughter's, he explained to Vexai without being asked. She drew our family, see? That's me in the middle. I'm taking them with me. As they prepared, music began playing over the ship's communication system. Not military marches or tactical frequencies, but songs from Earth. Rock music, classical symphonies, something called jazz. The humans moved to the rhythm as they prepared. Some singing along, others just nodding their heads. Chen appeared in full combat armor, her modified weapon slung across her back. Observer, you should get to your station. Things are about to get interesting. As they walked to the observation deck, Vexai noticed something else. The fear was gone from the humans' faces, not replaced by coalition calm or Thurian rage, but by something he couldn't identify. Their eyes were bright, their movements confident, and most disturbing of all, they were smiling. Commander, he said, your people seem happy. Chen considered this. Not happy, ready. We've said our goodbyes, made our peace, told our stories. Whatever happens next, we've already won the only battle that matters. Which battle is that? The one where we choose to stand. Where we look at impossible odds and say, not today. Where we decide that some things are worth more than survival. The observation deck's displays showed the swarm approaching, a massive cloud of bioships, each one a perfect killing machine. The numbers were overwhelming. The tactical computer had stopped calculating odds. It simply displayed extreme hazard, retreat recommended. Chen looked at the display and laughed. Actually laughed. Computers got jokes, she said to her tactical officer. Should I disable the warnings, Commander? No, leave them. Let the record show we saw them and stayed anyway. Vexhai watched the final moments of preparation. The first wave of swarm bioships hit the human defensive line like a tsunami of teeth and fury. Vexhai watched his tactical display overflow with threat markers as organic weapons fired streams of acid and hardened bone shards at the Gibraltar. Evasive pattern Delta, Chen commanded. The pilot, a young woman named Foster, laughed. Delta's for people who want to live forever, Commander. Let's try something fun. She threw the Gibraltar into a maneuver that should have torn the ship apart. The inertial dampeners screamed in protest as Foster flew directly at the swarm formation, spinning the ship like a drill. The modified point defense weapons Kim had installed fired in a continuous spiral, creating a tunnel of death through the bioships. That's not possible, Vexhai said, gripping his observation station as G-forces pushed against even his enhanced physiology. Welcome to human physics, Foster called back. We prefer the term creative interpretation of natural laws. 3 swarm carriers, each the size of a city block, moved to encircle the Gibraltar. Coalition doctrine demanded immediate retreat from encirclement. Instead, Chen smiled. Johnson, remember that mining ship we salvaged parts from? The one with the asteroid cracker? Yeah, Commander. Time to see if your modifications worked. Johnson activated something that definitely wasn't standard equipment. The Gibraltar's cargo bay doors opened, and Vexhai watched in disbelief as the humans launched mining drones. Crude industrial equipment never meant for combat. The drones accelerated toward the swarm carriers and at the last second detonated their drilling charges. The explosions weren't militarily significant, but they were bright. Blindingly bright, the swarm bioships evolved to hunt in the darkness of space recoiled from the light. Now, Chen shouted, the human fighters launched, 7 small craft against hundreds, but they flew like madmen, using the confusion to strike at vulnerable spots. Vexhai watched one pilot deliberately clip his fighter's wing against a bioship, using the spinning momentum to line up an impossible shot on 3 others. Mitchell, your wing is compromised, Chen called to the pilot. Still got one good one. Mitchell responded, somehow laughing as he nursed his damaged fighter through another attack run. But it was Private Martinez who truly broke Vexhai's understanding of combat. A breach alarm sounded on Deck 7. Swarm-boarding organisms had penetrated the hull, spider-like creatures with acid for blood and teeth that could chew through steel. Coalition protocol demanded sealing the deck and venting it to space. I got this, Martinez said, grabbing a welding torch and what looked like kitchen knives duct taped to a pole. Martinez, wait for backup, Chen started. No time, Commander. Besides, my abuela killed bigger things than this with a chancla. Vexhai switched his observation feed to Deck 7 and watched Martinez engage 12 swarm organisms alone. The private had welded his broken rifle to a piece of hull plating, creating a shield. His other hand held the improvised spear, but it was his tactics that defied reason. Martinez was singing some earth song about standing ground and not backing down. The swarm organisms, driven by instinct, attacked in a pattern. Martinez danced between them, actually danced, moving to the rhythm of his song. When one got close, he didn't retreat. He stepped forward inside its reach and used the welding torch like a close combat weapon. For 47 minutes, Martinez held that breach. His armor was dissolved in places. His left arm hung useless. Blood covered the deck. But he kept singing, kept dancing, kept fighting. When backup finally arrived, they found him sitting on a pile of dead organisms, using his one good arm to eat a ration bar. You guys missed the fun, he said, then passed out. Vexhai documented this, but his analysis programs couldn't process it. No single human should have survived that encounter. Back on the bridge, the battle had turned into something from a nightmare or a fever dream. The humans weren't fighting the swarm so much as playing with physics itself. Commander, the Kiev is down, the communications officer reported. Captain Volkov is dead and they're being overrun. Who's still alive over there? Lieutenant Kowalski and maybe 15 others. Chen nodded. Kowalski, you reading me? A voice crackled over the comms. Doc, Commander, we have situation. Can you reach engineering? If we run very fast and don't die, yes. Override their safeties and set reactor to overload. You have 5 minutes to reach escape pods. There was a pause. Commander, pods are other direction from engineering. I know. Another pause. Then Kowalski laughed. Understood. It has been honor. Vexhai watched the tactical display as the Kiev signature changed. The ship accelerated directly into the densest concentration of swarm vessels. 4 minutes and 30 seconds later, it detonated like a small star. The explosion took out 43 swarm ships, but what disturbed Vexhai most was the audio from the Kiev in those final moments. Kowalski and his team were singing that same song about grace, broadcasting it on all frequencies. Tactical analysis suggests retreat, Vexhai said, his voice somehow steady despite what he was witnessing. Tactical analysis can kiss my... Foster started. Language, Chen interrupted mildly, as if they weren't in the middle of a battle. We have an observer present. Foster's response was to throw the Gibraltar into another impossible maneuver, this time using the gravity well of a destroyed swarm carrier to slingshot them around for an attack run that shouldn't have worked. It was then that Vexhai noticed something extraordinary. The swarm was adapting slower than usual. Their hive mind, usually perfect at analyzing and countering enemy tactics, seemed confused. They don't know what to do with us, Chen said, noticing his observation. We're not following any patterns they can predict. She was right. The humans were fighting with pure chaos. One moment using advanced tactics, the next reverting to primitive brutality. Ships being used as battering rams. Soldiers jumping out airlocks to board enemy vessels with nothing but magnetic boots and determination. Someone had actually thrown a kitchen appliance into space after filling it with explosives. Who threw the microwave? Chen asked over comms. That would be me, Commander, Sergeant Williams replied. Figured they've never seen a kitchen IED before. Did it work? Took out 2 fighters, so I'd say yes. The battle raged for 3 hours. By any logical metric, the humans should have been destroyed in the first 30 minutes. Instead, they had somehow destroyed a third of the swarm fleet, but they were taking losses. The Santiago was gone, rammed into a carrier to buy time. The Belgrade was venting atmosphere. Half the fighters were destroyed or disabled, and the Gibraltar itself was held together by what Kim described as hope and prayer welds. Commander, the sensor officer called. I'm reading something strange from the swarm fleet. Vexhai looked at his displays. The bioships were pulling back, forming a defensive position. In 300 years of recorded combat, the swarm had never retreated, never even paused. They're scared, Chen said quietly. Then louder, they're actually scared of us. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Chen held up her hand. It's not over. They're regrouping for a final push. All ships, all personnel, prepare for Protocol Omega. Vexhai's database had no reference for Protocol Omega. Commander, what is Protocol Omega? Chen turned to him, and for the first time since the battle started, she looked sad. It's what humans do when winning isn't enough. When we need to make sure the enemy remembers us forever. I don't understand, you will, she said. And I'm sorry for that. She activated ship-wide communication. This is Commander Chen, the swarm is regrouping. They outnumber us 30-1 now. In 10 minutes, they'll attack again and we probably won't survive it. The crew listened in silence, but they're scared. For the first time in their existence, they know fear, because they've learned what humans are. We're not the strongest, we're not the fastest, we're not the smartest, but we're the species that looks at impossible odds and asks, is that all you've got? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the comms. Protocol Omega is volunteer only. Anyone who wants to take an escape pod, no judgment, no shame. But for those who stay, let's teach the universe why humanity should never be underestimated. No one moved toward the escape pods. Chen nodded, moisture in her eyes again. Then let's give them something to remember. Over the next 5 minutes, Vexhai watched the humans prepare for something. They were modifying their remaining ships, overriding every safety protocol, removing limiters from engines and weapons. You're turning your ships into guided missiles, he said with growing horror. Not missiles, Foster corrected, her hands steady on the controls. Statements. We're going to carve humanity was here, into the swarm's collective memory. The swarm began their final approach, hundreds of bioships moving in perfect formation. The humans had 7 partially functional vessels and the Gibraltar. All ships, Chen commanded, choose your targets. Make them count. One by one, the human ships accelerated toward the swarm, not firing weapons, not taking evasive action, just building speed. For Earth, someone shouted, for our families, for each other, for humanity. The first human ship hit the swarm line. The pilot had stayed aboard, manually adjusting course until the last second to ensure maximum damage. The explosion tore through 10 bioships, then the second ship, the third. The Gibraltar's medical bay looked like something from humanity's darker ages. Blood covered the floors. The screams of wounded soldiers filled the air. Dr. Patel moved between patients with mechanical efficiency, her hands covered in red, her face set in grim determination. Vex High stood in the corner, documenting everything. His emotional dampeners should have kept him objective, detached. But something was wrong. Each scream seemed to resonate in his chest cavity. Each death registered not as data but as loss. Martinez was awake despite having lost enough blood to kill most humans. He was holding the hand of another soldier, a woman whose name Vex High hadn't learned. Half her body was burned from plasma discharge. "Hey, Rosa," Martinez said softly. "Remember that time on Mars when you challenged the whole bar to arm wrestling?" Rosa tried to smile through the pain. "Beat every one of them. Even that Martian miner who had arms like tree trunks. Technique over strength," she whispered. Then her grip loosened. Her eyes stopped focusing. Martinez kept holding her hand. "Yeah," he said to no one. "Technique over strength." Dr. Patel closed Rosa's eyes and moved to the next patient. No time to mourn. 17 more critical cases waited. On the bridge, Commander Chen received casualty reports. Each name hit her like a physical blow, though she kept her expression neutral. The final count was devastating. Of the 300 humans who had started the battle, 91 remained alive. 67 of those were wounded. "Commander," Foster said from her pilot's chair. Her left arm was in a sling, but she'd refused to leave her post. "Coalition Command is hailing us." The holographic form of Supreme Coordinator Thel appeared. Vex High recognized the formal posture of disapproval. "Commander Chen," Thel began, "we have reviewed initial battle data. Your tactics were unorthodox." "We won," Chen said flatly. "You destroyed your fleet. You lost 2/3 of your personnel. You violated 17 major combat protocols." "We won," Chen repeated. The swarm retreated. First time in history. Through barbaric tactics that Chen cut the transmission, simply reached over and ended the communication with the Supreme Coordinator of Coalition Forces. Foster actually gasped. "Commander, you just hung up on—" "I know who I hung up on," Chen said. She activated ship-wide communication. "All hands, this is the commander. I know you're hurt. I know you're tired. I know we've lost so much, but I need you to hear this." She paused, choosing her words. "The Coalition is already calling our victory wrong. They'll say we fought incorrectly, that we lost too much, that we should have retreated. They'll turn our stand into a cautionary tale about following protocol. But everyone listening knows the truth. We stood when an entire galaxy would have run. We broke the unbreakable, and we did it our way." Murmurs of agreement echoed through the comm system. "So while we still can, while we're still together, let's remember our dead the human way." Deck 7, conference room. "Bring whatever alcohol Williams hasn't found and bring your stories. Every name will be spoken. Every sacrifice will be remembered." An hour later, Vex High found himself in a room packed with injured humans. Someone had turned a medical gurney into a makeshift bar. Photos of the dead covered every wall. Hasty printouts from personal files. Candles burned despite regulations against open flames on spacecraft. Chen stood at the front, holding a glass of something amber. "Marcus Rodriguez," she began. "Died ramming the Seville into a swarm carrier. Loved bad jokes, good tequila, and his daughter Maria. Could fix anything with enough duct tape and profanity." To Marcus, the room shouted, "Drinking." "Anna Kowalski," someone else continued. "Best engineer in the fleet. Died making sure the Kiev's reactor overloaded properly. Never met a safety protocol she couldn't override. Taught me everything about creative engineering." To Anna, it went on for 3 hours. Every name spoken. Every story told. Humans cried openly, laughed at memories, sang fragments of songs the dead had loved. Vex High watched emotions cascade through the room like waves. Grief, joy, anger, love. All mixing in ways that should have caused psychological breakdown. When Private Thompson stood to speak, his voice cracked. "Lisa Chen. No relation to the commander, just coincidence. Died holding Corridor 12 so medical could evacuate. He paused, tears streaming. "She was going to propose to her girlfriend when we got back. Had the ring and everything. Asked me to help her practice the speech." The room fell silent. "The ring is in her quarters," Thompson continued. "She wanted someone to send it to Sarah back on Colony 7. With a note that said, I would have said yes to you too. Commander Chen moved to Thompson, pulled him into an embrace. The young soldier sobbed into her shoulder. Around the room, others held each other, sharing grief without shame. Vexhai felt his secondary eyes producing moisture. A malfunction, surely. He was incapable of emotional response. Yet the liquid continued to flow. William stood next, the large sergeant's voice unusually quiet. Yuki Tanaka, my battle buddy for 7 years, died buying me time to reach the breach on Deck 5. Always beat me at cards, always shared her coffee ration even though I never asked. William stopped, unable to continue. Foster took over. She loved ancient Earth music. 20th century rock, said it was the only thing loud enough to drown out William's snoring. Laughter mixed with tears. To Yuki, as the memorial continued, Vexhai noticed something changing in the room. The grief wasn't diminishing, but it was transforming. The humans were weaving their pain into something else. A tapestry of memory that somehow made the loss bearable. Mitchell, the pilot who'd fought with one wing, raised his glass. They died human, not as soldiers following orders, not as resources spent for strategic gain, as humans who chose. That's the real victory. The real victory, the room echoed. Later, as the gathering broke into smaller groups, Vexhai found himself beside Dr. Patel. She was staring at a photo of her medical team. 8 faces, 5 now dead. Your species processes grief collectively, he observed. We have to, Patel replied. Alone it would break us. Together we can carry anything, even this level of loss. Patel looked at him. My grandmother lived through the water wars on Earth, lost her entire family except for my mother. You know what she told me? She said humans are like broken bones. When we heal, we're stronger at the break point. Our scars become our armor. That's not medically accurate. No, Patel smiled sadly. But it's human accurate. Chen approached them, a data pad in hand. Observer, Coalition Command wants your preliminary report. Vexhai looked at the pad, then at the room full of grieving, laughing, crying, singing humans. I don't know what to tell them. The truth, Chen suggested. They won't understand the truth. How do I explain that you won through collective insanity? That your military doctrine is the absence of doctrine? That you treat death like an old friend you're not ready to meet but aren't afraid of? Chen was quiet for a moment. Then tell them what they need to hear to leave us alone. But somewhere record the real truth. Someone should know what happened here. What did happen here? Vexhai asked. Humanity happened, Foster said, joining them. We took their perfect killing machines and showed them what imperfect humans could do. We made the swarm afraid because we weren't afraid to die. We were just afraid of dying for nothing. Thompson approached, holding something. Commander, we found this in the debris field, from the Kiev. It was a piece of hull plating, twisted and burned. But visible on it was something painted in hasty strokes. A human phrase in multiple Earth languages. Not today, Chen took it reverently. We'll mount it on the bridge. So we remember. Remember what? Vexhai asked. That when death comes for humanity, we can look it in the eye and say, not today. And mean it. The ship's communication system crackled. Commander, Coalition vessel approaching. They're requesting permission to board. Chen sighed. Let them come. Observer, you might want to prepare that report. 30 minutes later, a Coalition inspection team arrived. 3 Altarians, a Thurian, and another Zalathi. They moved through the Gibraltar with scanners documenting damage, recording violations. Their leader, Commander Vortax, was particularly interested in the modified weapons. These modifications are illegal, Vortax stated, examining Kim's jury-rigged mining laser rifle. So is losing, Kim replied from her medical bed. You will dismantle these immediately. No, Shen said simply. Vortax's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion. This is not a request, and my answer isn't negotiable. We fought, we won. We keep our modifications. The Coalition ran, Martinez interrupted. He'd dragged himself from medical, standing despite his injuries. We stayed. We fought, we won. Don't see any Coalition soldiers here who can tell us what we can't do. Other humans began gathering, wounded soldiers leaving their beds. They said nothing, just stood behind their commander. Vexhai watched the Coalition team grow nervous. They were seeing what the swarm had seen, humans who had passed through fear and come out the other side as something else. Vortax backed down. We will file a report. You do that, Chen said. After the coalition team left, Vexahai found Chen alone on the observation deck staring at the stars. She was crying silently, finally allowing herself the luxury of grief. 209 names, she said. I knew them all. Their hopes, their fears, their favorite foods. Vexahai sat in his quarters aboard Coalition Station Prime, 4 days after the Gibraltar had docked. His official report glowed on the screen before him. 15 pages of tactical analysis, violation documentation, and statistical breakdowns. It was perfect by Coalition standards. Cold, precise, and completely wrong. He closed the file and opened another, the report he'd been writing in secret. The one that began with, "They ordered me to observe the humans in battle. I wish I had refused." Not because what he saw was terrible, though it was, but because what he saw changed him in ways his species had tried to breed out millennia ago. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door opened to reveal Commander Chen, out of uniform, wearing simple civilian clothes. She looked smaller without her armor, more fragile. The burns on her face were healing but would leave scars. "Observer," she greeted him. "Thought I'd check in before we ship out." "You're leaving?" "Earth wants us home. Parades, medals, all that nonsense." She didn't sound pleased. "The survivors aren't sure how to feel about being heroes for doing what we had to do." Vexahai gestured to a seat. Chen sat, wincing slightly. Internal injuries, still healing. "I've been thinking about your reports," she said. "The official one and the real one." "How did you—" "Foster's good with computers, don't worry, she didn't read it. Just confirmed it existed." Chen leaned forward. "Why write something you'll never submit?" Vexahai was quiet for a long moment. "Because someone should know the truth. The Coalition will study your battle, try to replicate it. They'll fail because they're looking at the wrong data." "And what's the right data?" Private Thompson gave his last ration bar to a wounded enemy prisoner yesterday. The swarm drone was dying. Thompson said nobody should die hungry. That's the right data. Sergeant Williams adopted the orphaned child of a colonist who died in the attack. He has no experience with children, but said, "Figured it out for barbecue sauce, can figure it out for babies." "That's the right data." Chen smiled. "You're starting to understand." "I'm starting to feel," Vexahai corrected. "It's uncomfortable." "Welcome to being human." "I'm not human." "No," Chen agreed, "but you're not quite Zalathi anymore either." She was right. Vexahai had noticed the changes. He'd stopped filing reports with perfect regularity. He'd kept the charm Thompson gave him. He'd found himself thinking about the dead humans, wondering about their unfinished stories. "The Coalition wants me to study your combat methods," he said. "Develop training programs to create similar results with other species." Good luck with that. I told them it was impossible. They didn't believe me. They think humanity has some secret weapon, some hidden advantage. Chen laughed. "We do. It's called being too stupid to know when we're beat and too stubborn to care." Martinez appeared in the doorway, walking with a cane, but walking. "Commander, shuttle's ready." "Hey, observer." "Private Martinez," Vexahai acknowledged. "Your injuries?" "I'll live. Might even dance again if Rosa's ghost doesn't judge my footwork too hard." He said it lightly, but Vexahai caught the pain underneath. More humans gathered in the corridor. Foster, one arm still in a sling. Williams, carrying a sleeping infant. Kim, her hair now half-shaved where medical had operated. Thompson looking older than his years. All the survivors, drawn together by invisible bonds. "We wanted to say goodbye," Foster explained. "And give you something." Williams handed the infant to Chen and pulled out a package. Inside was a flag, Earth's blue and green banner but modified. Sewn into it were patches from every ship that fought, names of the dead embroidered in gold thread. "We made one for each survivor," Thompson explained. "Figured you counted as one of us now." Vexahai took the flag with all 4 hands, studying the names. He knew each one now, their stories woven into his memory. "I cannot accept this," he said. "I didn't fight." "You witnessed," Chen said. "Sometimes that's harder than fighting. You carry our story now. That makes you one of us." Kim stepped forward. Plus, we included something special. She pointed to a section of the flag. In small letters, embroidered in silver, were words in Zalathi script. Vexhai had to look closer to read them. Honorary human, Vexhai, who learned to feel. Foster hacked your personal files to get the script right, Kim explained. Sorry about that. Vexhai's secondary eyes were malfunctioning again, producing moisture. Thank you. Don't go soft on us now, Observer, Martinez joked. You've got a reputation to maintain. Speaking of which, Chen said, taking the infant back from Williams, what will you tell the Coalition? Really? Vexhai considered. The truth they can accept, that humans are unpredictable, that your tactics are non-replicable, that attempting to create human-like soldiers from other species would be resource inefficient. And the real truth? That goes in my personal files, encrypted, hidden, but preserved. He looked at each human. Your story deserves to be remembered correctly, even if the galaxy isn't ready to understand it. And what story is that? Foster asked. Vexhai thought about how to summarize everything he'd witnessed. That humanity's greatest weapon isn't technology or tactics. It's the ability to choose. Every human who died chose their death. Every survivor chose to fight. You choose to remember, to grieve, to laugh, to continue. That choice, that free will mixed with pure chaos is what makes you dangerous. Dangerous, Williams mused. Yeah, I suppose we are. Beautifully dangerous, Vexhai corrected, surprising himself with the words. The humans exchanged glances. Then Chen spoke. 3 months from now, Earth is holding a memorial. Every survivor will be there. Official ceremony in the morning, real wake in the evening. You should come. The Coalition wouldn't approve. Didn't ask what the Coalition would approve, Martinez said. Asked if you'd come. Vexhai looked at these impossible beings who had taught him to feel, who had shown him that strength could come from vulnerability, that victory could be worth any price if the cause was right. I'll come, he said. The humans smiled. That expression he now understood meant joy, sadness, connection, and a dozen other things his species had forgotten how to feel. As they prepared to leave, Thompson hung back. Observer, that charm I gave you, did it work? Vexhai touched the small woven object still attached to his belt. I survived, didn't I? No, Thompson said seriously. Did it work? Did it protect you? Vexhai understood. The question wasn't about physical protection. It did, he said. It protected me from remaining unchanged. Thompson nodded, satisfied, and joined the others. Chen was the last to leave. At the door, she turned back. Vexhai, the real report, the one you'll never file. How does it end? Vexhai pulled up the file, scrolling to the last page. He read aloud. They ordered me to observe the humans in battle. I wish I had refused, not because what I witnessed was horrific, though it was. Not because they violated every rule of warfare, though they did. I wish I had refused because watching humans fight, die, and grieve has broken something in me that my species spent millennia trying to remove. I have learned to feel, to truly feel, joy at survival, sadness at loss, pride in sacrifice, love for beings not of my kind. The humans have infected me with their humanity, and there is no cure. The Coalition believes humanity's power comes from their unpredictability, their willingness to sacrifice, their chaotic tactics. They are wrong. Humanity's power comes from their ability to care so deeply that they'll face any odds, pay any price, endure any pain for what they love. They fight not as soldiers but as humans, messy, emotional, irrational, and unstoppable because of it. They turn their weakness into strength, their mortality into a weapon, their love into armor that no force in the galaxy could pierce. I observed 94 humans survive an impossible battle. But more than that, I observed humanity itself. Raw, terrible, beautiful, and absolutely refused to surrender. They sang as they died. They laughed as they killed. They cried as they won. And in doing so, They changed the galaxy forever. The swarm will never attack human space again, not from fear of death, but from fear of an enemy that welcomes it. An enemy that treats the ultimate sacrifice as a reasonable Tuesday option. An enemy that wins not by being better, but by being human. This report will never be filed because the coalition isn't ready for its contents. They want to know how humans fight. But the real question is why humans fight. And that answer, for love, for each other, for the right to exist on their own terms, is something no amount of genetic modification or training can replicate. They ordered me to observe the humans in battle. I wish I had refused. Because now I understand what we've been missing all along, the ability to be beautifully, chaotically, impossibly human. Chen was quiet for a long moment after he finished. Then she reached out and grasped his primary arm in that primitive gesture humans called a handshake. "Thank you," she said simply, "for seeing us, really seeing us." "Thank you," Vexai replied, "for teaching me to see." After the humans left, Vexai sat in his quarters, looking at the flag they'd given him. Each name a story, each story a choice, each choice a defiance of the universe's cold logic. He began a new file. Not a report, but something else. A message to future Zalathi who might one day rediscover what their species had lost. "Today, I met beings who die singing," he wrote, "who fight with laughter, who love with such fierce intensity that it reshapes reality around them. They are called humans.